Do you know where you're missing out on opportunities? Do you know where your sales funnel is falling short? That's called leakage. And that's this week on Think Tank Tuesday. Hi, I'm Paul Potratz, and welcome to this week's Think Tank Tuesday. I want to talk to you about something really serious. It's called leakage. And don't go there, okay? What I'm talking about is in your sales organization, your sales process. Leakage can be very disturbing. I mean, it can upset you. It can keep you awake at night. It can cost your company tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars, because leakage means you're missing out on opportunities. But what I want you to do as a business owner, a marketer, or a manager, or whatever, is I want you to face it head on. You've got to find out, what is the leakage in my sales organization? And it's not that people are wanting to do a bad job. It's not that they're being lazy. It's just that they don't have a set process in place. They don't understand exactly when they should do something, how they should do it, and so on and so forth. So you as a leader, you have to uncover this leakage, because when you do that, it means opportunity. So let me explain. Every month, or every day really, you've got all of these opportunities, all of these leads coming into you that you've got to handle. So let's assume for a moment that you've got 1,000 leads that came in for the month. Out of those 1,000 leads that came in, here's a lead. In other words, a lead form filled in, a phone call, a chat lead, a Facebook lead, a Twitter lead, whatever the opportunity is, it's a lead. Lead comes in. What is the next step when you get a lead that comes in? What is the next tactical thing you do when a lead comes in? It's simple. You're overthinking it. You pick up the phone and you call them, or you send them an email. So out of the 1,000 leads, now we have to determine how many of those people did we establish contact with. 1,000 leads, how many are we moving into the next part of the funnel? How many of these individuals are going to become a prospect? So we have 1,000 that came in, just for easy math, and let's assume that 500 of them we established contact with. So 50% of these individuals we established contact with, but 50% of them we had leakage on. So just understanding that is, how do I increase my process? How do I reduce my leakage? Well, that's pretty simple. Think about it. If I got 1,000 leads came in and I contacted 500, how do I move that up to 600 that I established contact with? Maybe it's a faster response time. Maybe it's your word track. Maybe it's how you interact with that individual. Chances are, the big thing is it's going to be your response time needs to be faster. The whole goal is to start to fill the leaks up to the point that you're always going to have leaks, but let's minimize the leakage on that first stage. All right, so let's just stick with the 500. That we had 1,000 come in, we established contact with 500. What's the next stage? What's the next part that we want to measure? Well, the next part is, how many of these individuals agreed to do a demo? How many of these individuals agreed to show up, do an appointment with us? Well, let's assume that 250 did. So we had 50% that agreed to go to the next stage, the next step. So again, we had 50% leakage. What can you do to make sure that you're getting more people to the demo? Well, what is your unique selling proposition? Is it something with your pricing? What is it? You have to uncover all of those things. Why am I not getting more people moving to the next stage? So let's assume now we had 250 and we're going to move them to the next level. What's the next one? Well, did they show up? They scheduled the demo. They said they were going to come to our showroom, but how many of them showed up? Again, so let's assume that out of that, and boy, here the math's going to get tricky because I don't have my Excel document right now. So out of the 250, how many of them showed up? Well, let's assume that 125 showed up. So again, we had what? What was our leakage? You see the process and how it's moving? So out of that, what did we learn? How do we improve our process? How do we train our people? How do we make them better? How do we give them more confidence? How do we give them more tools? How do we reduce the leakage? Because ultimately, as we move down the funnel, we had 125 show up for the appointment. Now let's go to the next stage. They showed up for the appointment. Now, how many of those people took the next step? What is the next step? Well, that's easy. How many of them purchased? And then how many of them did not purchase, maybe to come back at a later date? Well, let's assume that it was half of that number. Now, do you see what I'm telling you? Here's leakage in this part, this part, this part, and this part. How do I increase my training, increase my processes? What do I do in each part of these steps to make sure that our leakage is minimized? Because at the end of the funnel, the end of the spreadsheet, we're tracking how many people purchase. Yeah, what I'm talking about is really simple. And you're going, well, that's a no-brainer. That's simple. But my question to you is, if it's so simple, but as you can see that it's so important, are you doing this and are you following this? And I made the little joke about as we get older, we get busier and we have more leakage. But my point is, are you focusing on these basics? Are you focusing on these things that will make all of the difference? Or are we going out and we're buying more advertising? And I'm not saying don't do that, definitely do that. In fact, if you want to do a pay-per-click campaign, a video pre-roll campaign, if you want a website that converts better than anybody else's, pick up the phone and call me or email me. I can help you with that. But we can also help you with the leakage, but that's something that you've got to commit to. That's something you need to be looking at every day. Most of the CRMs today will show you where your leakage is. The question is, are you looking at your leakage and doing something about it? Or are you just thinking that time is going to take care of itself? Or you've got, Jose over there doing it and Steve over there doing it. You need to be asking those questions, because it's the simple part is driving traffic to the website. The next part is making sure that your team has the resources, they have the confidence, they have the knowledge, they have the tools, and they have the ability to be able to minimize the leakage. You've got to set your goals, you've got to work on these goals, and you've always got to be readjusting. Because again, if you had 50% leakage, at the end of it, how many sales did that lead to? So if you move that leakage, and let's say that your leakage was only 30% in the beginning and you got to keep 70% of those opportunities, how many more products, widgets, vehicles, whatever it is that you're selling, how many more are you going to sell at the end of the month? So write that word down and start following it and see what your leakage is. The final question to you is, do you know how to track the leakage? Do you have a tool, a resource, an Excel spreadsheet to do that? If you don't, then email me. My email's on the screen. I'm going to send you an Excel spreadsheet to be able to start tracking your leakage. Boy, that word, I wish we could find another word, but that word is important. So again, shoot me an email. I'll send you the Excel spreadsheet so you can start tracking it, and I'll see you next week.